Now it's Tuesday morning, and we're here with Dr. Bob Olivieri. Welcome to the show, Dr. Bob. How you doing?
It's good to be here, Phil. First, I want to congratulate you on you announcing your retirement.
Well, thank you.
And we are going to miss you here tremendously. I know you're still going to have some hands here. You're going to be doing some things here.
Something, not quite sure what yet, but if they need me to do something, I'll be helping out.
But I will tell you that I know that all of our listeners are going to miss you tremendously. And as, of course, I am too. You're an awesome host, and you're just a great guy. I've really got a chance to get to know you over the years, and I just think you're just an amazing guy, Phil.
Well,
We're going to really miss you.
Thank you. And, I have a nice thing to say about you, too. We were in Italy together.
Yes.
And I'll never forget the time that we stopped at the first stop that we made in Italy. You know, we usually stop on those roadside, not fast food places, but the rest stops.
Mm-hmm.
Usually get like a burger or fries, whatever. You had like a salmon and a salad. I'll never forget that. That no matter what was going on, you were always eating healthy and thinking healthy and living what you promote.
Well, yeah, I try. I mess up a lot, but I try.
Well, thanks for the kind words. And today, of course, we're going to be wrapping up your 9 hidden secrets of why you can't lose weight and reviewing some of what we talked about over the past couple of months.
Right, so what I want to do today is this is kind of like putting it all together. So we're going to talk about each one of the modules just briefly, and then we're going to talk about what are some of the things that you can actually do once you take this information. The first module that we talked about was the insulin weight loss connection. And basically what insulin is it's a hormone that allows you to take the sugar that's in your blood after it's been digested, it gets into your blood, and allow that sugar to get driven into the cells so the cells can use it for energy. And we found that it's so important to actually be able to do that, because without having enough insulin or too much insulin, the sugar is not getting into the cells the way it's supposed to, and therefore what you start to see is fatigue, you start to see weight gain, and truly like a lack of energy throughout the whole body. The second series that we talked about when we were going through this was the
All right, while you're doing that, I just want to remind people that if they want to hear any of the episodes that we talked about, they can go online to 9hiddenweightlosssecrets.com. That's the number 9, hiddenweightlosssecrets.com, and you'll hear a wrap-up of, well, not a wrap-up, we have actually the shows, all 9 episodes of the shows that we did, and you can review them at any time online.
Right, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
And some of the things we could do as far as the insulin to actually try to get it regulated was, most importantly, get labs. You really wanted to be able to see your blood sugar work. So when you see the lab work, you get a chance to see not only glucose levels, but your hemoglobin A1C. Hemoglobin A1C is a great measure to be able to see how your blood sugar is being regulated throughout the course of about 3 months, as opposed to just when you go for a lab and you just look at glucose. It's really how you're doing over the last day or two. Mm-hmm. If you are hypoglycemic, if you don't have enough sugar, you need to eat frequently. You need to eat small meals that are primarily protein-based. If you can, you want to try to go organic. You also want to look at some of the other hormones that we're going to talk about in a minute, some cortisol and glucagon, because cortisol also regulates that. Cortisol is a stress hormone. If you are insulin resistant, which means that your blood sugar is higher, just pre-diabetic, and when we talk about blood sugar, anything above 100 is considered high, anything above 126 is considered diabetic, and between 100 and 125 is really considered insulin resistance. So if you have higher blood sugar, what you want to do is an elimination diet, which means to get rid of any of the inflammatory foods that you may be eating. We've talked about many times inflammatory foods consist of certain types of simple carbohydrates. And you want to try to eat as basic as you can. Meat and vegetables are pretty much the very simplest way to do.
When you say an elimination diet, does that mean taking things that would, cause you to eliminate things from your body, or is it just a total change in what your intake is?
What you're going to eliminate is any food that can cause inflammation. So usually any of the food proteins like casein, which is milk protein, soy. You want to eliminate anything, any type of a gluten type of a thing that may cause some inflammation, and just really go back to the basics of meat and vegetables and some fruit. and just stay with that for a little while, because that will settle your body down. Well, most of us are continually eating foods that are high in inflammation, pretzels, potato chips, snack foods, any type of breads. They're inflammatory. So you give your body a chance to repair, give your body a chance to rest. And by doing that, by removing like the simple sugars and those other inflammatory foods, and of course simple sugar is extremely inflammatory, it gives your body a chance to rest, repair a little bit, and get back to normal. So if you eliminate those, then you can start to add certain foods back in to find out which ones will cause you problems.
Now, I've never asked you this before, but I just thought about it. You said you're going to basically meat and vegetables. There are people that don't eat meat, the vegans. I mean, do you think that your body needs to have some sort of meat at some point to help it out, or how does that interface with what this whole program?
Well, your body definitely has to have protein, without a doubt, because it's one of the 3 major building blocks for your body. So how you get that source varies amongst people. Most people that are vegetarians or vegans, they get it from beans. And many beans are inflammatory, and so you have to be careful of that. In our program, you can take it through like powdered proteins and those types of things, or in our case, we also have some other fish proteins that they can take in capsular form. But you need protein. It's really simple. When we do organic acid testing, we check for 3 things. We check for carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and how your body assimilates those. And so when you have somebody that's a vegan, I've never tested a single vegan that does not have extremely low protein absorption. Mm-hmm. Or very, very high inflammatory markers, because they're substituting those they're getting that source by way of beans that are inflammatory. Mm-hmm. So it's hard. It's a tough way to go. You can doing it for short durations, I think, is fine, and actually probably very healthy, especially if you're going vegan raw. But being able to sustain that for long periods of time, I just don't think it's good. Your body needs protein for muscle building and energy, as we talked about in the cellular portion of that, mm-hmm. for your mitochondria to build. Some of the other things we were talking about, as far as you want to make sure that the food quality that you're eating is extremely good. You want to be able to exercise if your blood sugar is really high, and any supplements you take, or the goal should be to improve your insulin function and not to lower your blood sugar. You don't want to take supplements that do that. Just want to make sure that the insulin is being regulated, properly. So we've talked about that. The second secret that we talked about is the cortisol fat loss connection. Cortisol is the stress hormone in your body. So this could be called really the stress fat loss connection, the second phase, the second secret that we did in there. What happens is when cortisol, which is a hormone that will work in opposition to melatonin. So if your cortisol is very, very high, which it should be in the morning, and very low at night, your melatonin should be very, very low in the morning and high at night, so you can sleep. So there are testing that you can do to actually regulate that. So when your sleep cycles are off, you want to look at both the cortisol, melatonin cycle in your body. And cortisol it can be measured by way of what we call a stress response, and we look at it from an adrenal stress index testing, and it's a saliva test, and we get a chance to look at, with that particular test, certain types of hormones, testosterone, estrogen, and those things, along with your cortisol levels. It's an adrenal function test, basically, is what it looks like. So if cortisol is being released over a long period of time, when you feel really stressed, you're going to have an increase in appetite, you're going to have decreased muscle mass, you're going to increase visceral fat, and you're going to decrease bone formation. Blood pressure will increase, which will increase your insulin levels. There's a lot of different side effects that you'll have. Your hippocampus within your brain, which is responsible for some of your short-term memory, will also become inflamed. So it's actually a really, really important hormone to regulate. It's a vital, vital test in our Feel Great Nate program.
I'm talking with Dr. Bob Oliveira, as we do every Tuesday. Today we're wrapping up the 9 hidden secrets why you might not be losing weight. We'll be back with more of Dr. Bob on this Tuesday when we continue here on the program. Good morning. It is 8:27 on your Tuesday. There's some remnants of Florence will be joining us today, but I forgot my rain jacket. I should have brought it. I noticed the clouds as I was coming in. Anyway, I'll be fine. I won't melt. We're here with Dr. Bob Oliveira, as we always are on Tuesday. We're summing up the 9 hidden secrets of why you might not be able to lose weight. This has been a very fascinating series. How's the reaction been, Dr. Bob, from our listeners?
It's been very good. We've actually had listeners go onto the website and download this series, and we've had a very large number, much greater than we thought.
Interesting.
I think
Great.
I don't know the exact number, but we were each and every time after the show, we're really excited. We'll get like 20 or 30 people actually sign up for the series, so it's kind of nice.
Nice.
Yeah, good. It's been very good.
I know I signed up for it. I get it on my email. If you sign up, you actually get the invitation to look at it online.
Yes, and you can get access to each and every module.
Great.
So yeah, it was good. So the next topic that we had talked about was the gut fat loss connection, and the GI system is by far the most critical system that we always talk about in our Feel Great in 8 program. And dysfunction is really rampant throughout the United States, and really it's not often evaluated. Very rarely do you ever go into a family physician unless having major GI symptoms and just have it evaluated. Like you do normal blood work, and I honestly believe myself and a bunch of other functional medicine doctors that are much more famous than I am say that they believe in about another 5 or 6 years you're going to start to see, as a typical screen, you're going to get a stool test. And I'm not talking about just a smear to be able to look and see if you have blood in your stool. I'm talking about a full-blown stool test looking for bacterial dysfunction and all the different pathologies that can actually go on in your testes.
Dr. Bob, if you just watch TV, you'll notice that there's a lot more commercials now about the GI tract, and we even run them here on the program. And you never even heard talk about Crohn's disease on TV before. Commercials about Crohn's disease and inflammatory bowel disease. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a shame because science is really pretty far. Our actual application of what we're really seeing in the basic sciences are really like 10, 15 years behind the times. It really is. I mean, this stuff I learned in chiropractic college. This is really, it's considered revolutionary in the functional medicine community because most functional medicine physicians are medical doctors or osteopaths. So since they don't get nutrition as a large portion of their education in school, this is kind of like new. Instead of giving a drug, giving nutrients that all of these energy cycles that we learned about. I always talk about the Krebs cycle and the energy cycle. You're not missing a medication in that Krebs cycle to get energy. You're missing magnesium. You're missing vitamin D. You're missing CoQ10. You're missing B vitamins. Those are the things that you need to do. But since it's not a medicine, it's not prescribed. So you're going to get medicine when you go for a medicine doctor, so that's what happens here. But the GI dysfunction is really rampant right now, and it's associated with pretty much every single chronic disease that's going on in America. There's some key factor that's involved in that, and the most common dysfunctions are a lack of hydrochloric acid within the stomach. And what do? We give a pill that actually makes that even worse.
Yes.
It even lessens it more, which doesn't make any sense to anybody that understands the physiology of the stomach. There's decreased digestive enzymes, intestinal permeability that we talk about, leaky gut, inflammation, food sensitivities, and dysbioses, which are really imbalances of the good and bad bacteria. And there's a lot of things that you can do with that. You can order blood work and reinterpret it in a little different way, looking at see if you do have enough hydrochloric acid. You can do the stool testing that we said. We can check for intestinal permeability. We can look for food allergies, which are also very important. And that's, again, a huge part of what our program does. We do genetic stool testing, which get a chance to see multiple things that we've talked about earlier in the show. The next section was the hormone fat loss connection. And unfortunately, hormone replacement is the rage in this anti-aging community right now, and you're starting to see all these people that are going out and wanting to feel younger and look younger. They're taking certain types of hormone supplements. Unfortunately, at least in my opinion, it's better to actually look upstream from these hormones rather than getting just like the pure estrogen or testosterone. Actually looking upstream and looking at all the different things that actually are used and needed to create testosterone and estrogen, such as cholesterol, such as pregnenolone, such as DHEA, progesterone. Those types of things are really needed. So if you can give your body and supplement those things, but quite often they're not tested for. So if you can and when they're tested, they're usually tested by way of blood, which means that they're bound, and it's not really the best way to really look at it. If you do free fraction hormone testing, which we do with saliva, we can really see exactly how much is in your body that can be utilized. The other section that we did in here was toxins. Huge in our community. We have so many different toxins that we're exposed to in our cosmetics that we rub on our body, in our shampoos, in, you know, if you're using toothpaste, anything. When you read a bottle and you can't pronounce the word, you know, I can guarantee it's not probably the healthiest thing for you.
Well, not just applying to your body, people eat things that you can't pronounce.
Absolutely, and it's all built up. So I'm a big believer that you want to purify your air, you want to purify your water, you want to make sure that your cleaning supplies are fairly natural as much as you can. Try to avoid as much plastics. Try to detoxify your body. So there's some of the bigger points with that, and I'll continue with those.
All right, we're talking with Dr. Bob Oliveri, as we normally do on a Tuesday, but today we're summarizing what we've been talking about for the past couple of months, 9 hidden weight loss secrets. We'll be back with more. Dr. Bob. It is Tuesday. We are here with Dr. Bob Oliveri, as we normally are, and he's wrapping up his series on 9 hidden weight loss secrets, or reasons why you can't lose weight.
Right, exactly. So the last 2 that we're going to talk about is the immune system that we had talked about previously, and it is very complex. The immune system basically circulates around the body. So unlike the cardiovascular system and the nervous system is pretty stationary, your immune system is all over the place, and it's a part of every single cell in your body, and it helps protect your body from, obviously, illness. 70% of your immune system is actually in the gut. So when we were just talking about the gut function and keeping the gut very healthy and keeping it away from any inflammation and eating proper foods to keep it where it's not going to cause any problems, a big portion of that is keeping your immune system healthy. So
70%?
70% of that.
Wow.
You have a gut-associated lymphoid tissue that's associated down in there. So GI function is extremely important to affect your immune system. And we had talked about it in great detail before, talking about, you know, how the immune system will attack single particles, and then it will also, the second part, the adaptive or required part that calls into the Th1, Th2 system. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but if you really want to look at the immune system, you want to look at your blood work, you want to look at your, and you can tell how healthy your immune system is. If you're really sick, there's many other immune panels that you can actually order. The next section that we had reviewed in there was the brain function, which was the neurotransmitter, and we really kind of focused on 2 of the neurotransmitters, which was serotonin, which had to do with your mood, and depression and anger and cravings and OCD, and dopamine, which is basically your pleasure reward system. And we talked about how we can actually influence that by certain types of nutritional supplements. So that was like the summary. That was the conclusion of the series. And what I wanted to do today really is just to go in to give you a little bit more of what are some of the things that you can actually do to actually put all this together. What are some of the answers to actually bring this together? So primarily, the first thing you want to look at is diet. You want to really look at your diet and make sure what you're eating is nice and clean. You want to look at your blood chemistry. And it will help you dictate also whether your diet's pretty clean. You're going to look at certain factors that are inflammatory factors. You want to look at like hemoglobin A1C, looking for your blood sugar. You want to look at homocysteine levels with that. You want to look at C-reactive protein, making sure that all these things some of these are inflammatory markers. Is your diet actually pretty clean? You also want to pay attention to exercise, because and you want to do diet and exercise, they go together. If you diet without exercise, you're going to get fat loss, but you're also going to get muscle loss. So it's important to be doing exercises. You want to look at some of the symptoms. You don't want to look at like some symptoms that you're having, because when you look at some of the symptoms, it can point you to certain types of directions. We talked about a chart that we use in our program called a metabolic assessment form that gives us specific questions for certain organs. So if you're having a problem with your gallbladder, if you're having a problem with your intestines, problem with liver detoxification, hormones, neurotransmitters, and it gives us an idea of what systems are breaking down. So you really want to look at the body as a whole and not just go after individual portions of it. You want to look at testing, blood chemistry, the hormone testing that we were talking about, salivary hormone, stool testing, intestinal permeability are all very important. with that. Again, that's all part of our program, very important. One of the biggest tests that we use is organic acid testing, which it gives us an ability to look at the cellular function, the mitochondrial, and the neurotransmitter. So step by step, you want to pay attention to your diet, you want to pay attention to your exercise. You want to also try to add some visualization and meditation into your life to relax your body, allow it to heal. You want to get adequate sleep, and the 4R program that we talked before about in the intestine, where you want to do an elimination diet, replace the things that you need, the hydrochloric acid and enzymes, repair, which are certain types of supplements that allow your intestines to heal, and some probiotics. You also want to try to clean up your life, looking at toxins, making sure that what you're eating, drinking, and breathing are normal. We have certain types of things in our office, water purifiers that are air purifiers that we sell, and we give you some direct access to those things. You want to look at antioxidants, which are glutathione, and last but not least, you want to look at neurotransmitters and really affect the stress in your life, try to decrease stressful situations in your life, and you're on your way to heal.
Well, it takes some cooperation with a lot of that, especially with the stressful situations.
So you need a coach.
You need a coach, and,
Yeah.
and that's what you guys provide.
That's what we provide, and there's a lot of information there. We get a lot of information from the testing that we do, and when you have that information, you have a plan, you have a map, and then you have a coach that take you through this. Mm-hmm. And just like any successful person, I don't care how successful you are, you need a coach to be able to take you through these steps. So if health is your priority, our Feel Great in 8 Institute is there to help you, and we have a very successful track record.
All right, we come back with a summary of how we can put this. You already did how we put it all together, but how you can how people can get in touch with you, the next Feel Great in 8 seminar, all
Sure.
that sort of thing. We'll get to all that with Dr. Bob Oliveri, as we do every Tuesday. It is the morning show here, 98.7 The Coast. News, weather, and sports coming up.